Hello, everyone. This is David from the UCM Media, and today we have a very special guest. And when I say a very special guest, I mean a very special guest. We have been streaming the channelings of Josiah by Bob Hill, and so we thought it would be a good idea to allow you guys to actually meet the man, Bob Hill. Okay? Now, Bob and I have known each other for a little while, since I migrated like a snowbird in reverse. And it's been fun. Bob has taught me quite a lot of things, like how to drive a truck up a steep incline and get the bejesus scared out of you, as an example. Bob was there when I had my first Saskatoon berry. For those of you who don't know what that is, they're delicious. I went berry picking, by the way, Bob, with Jess, right? And so we have spoken before, and what we're going to be doing today is interviewing the man. So, Bob, right off the bat, I'm not going to ask you any of those usual questions. What does it feel like? Do you need to sleep afterwards? I'm not going to ask you any of those questions. We're going to first focus on you as a man, and then we're going to focus on the message. That's basically what we're going to do today. And anything else you want to drop in, that's fine. Bob, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Bob Hill. I'm probably the least spiritual person you are ever going to meet. When I started channeling, I was more doubtful of what was being said than anyone else. And to this day, I still challenge some of the information that's been coming out. So if you are skeptical, I absolutely understand. And it's good to be skeptical. It is very good to question things rather than accept them at face value. So I'm just your average guy. I'm probably, again, the least spiritual you'll ever meet. I'm sell real estate for a living. I've ranched and farmed for a living. I'm a fisherman. I'm a bow hunter. So I'm about as far from your average type of spiritual person that you're ever going to meet. So that's who I am, plain and simple. And I see David has covered his face.
No, I'm covering my face because I know this is going to be a fun interview. Amer, I want to introduce my co-host. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Amer is there with us, Dr. Amer Jahangiri, and you guys know Amer because we do UCM VIP every week. Amer, we're going to get into all of this, but go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, my warmest greetings to you. Welcome here. This is an amazing opportunity for all of us. So if you've seen the channelings that were broadcast, you have a reference of the energy while these channelings are happening. Now we have the opportunity to see the energy of the gentleman and that high vibing being that is so humble, and it all kind of clicks. It makes sense why elevated beings would choose such a beautiful, noble vessel as their messenger. So you see there's a logical correspondence, and you can absolutely feel that these are two different vibrations, two modes of operation, very, very distinct, but both just as beautiful as each other. So thank you so much, Bob. I'm really elated, ecstatic that you are here. I'm really grateful. So welcome to you, honored friend.
Excellent. So, Bob, usually I'm going to skip all the dumb questions that people usually ask you, like what does it feel like, or any of that kind of crap. We're not dealing with that. We're going to deal with the life of Bob Hill. So how exactly did you just suddenly start channeling? How did it happen specifically?
Well, I've been meditating for a very long time, probably 45 years, close to 50 years now I've been meditating. Mm-hmm. And about in the year 2000, I was running a meditation group in my home here. And they were usually guided meditations that we did ourselves. We didn't have recorded meditations. And I was the one who usually ended up doing the guided meditation. Nobody else was too anxious to take it on. And during some of those meditations, I would find myself saying some phrases that obviously were not my thoughts. It's like you're daydreaming and thoughts come to your mind, and you realize that that's really something that's like a fantasy type thing, not something that you were aware of or that you consciously brought into your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what was happening. And I would become aware that I was saying some of those phrases, and I would stop. And it was very uncomfortable. I didn't like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
This went on for a while. And then one day we were sitting here with my wife, who has passed away, with a very good friend of mine, Rick Tilson, and another very good friend of mine, Robin McCulley. And the four of us were sitting there. We were the only ones that had showed up for the meditation that day. And so I asked them, do you want to meditate or do you want to try listening to that message that I've been rather reluctantly shutting off? And Robin was quite frank. She said, we can meditate at home anytime we want. We want to hear the message. And so that was the first time that I would say that I really channeled, despite the fact that it was quite awkward and it was quite slow, because I was still aware of what I was saying and filtering what I was saying, because I really didn't believe a lot of what was coming into my mind. So, but that's how it started. And at first it was rather exciting. And the more we did it, we found ourselves, the four of us, sitting together sometimes 4 or 5 times a week, doing the channeling. And the more I did it, the better the message came through. And also the more I did it, the more I found that if I could get out of the way, it was much easier on me. Mm-hmm. And not only was it much easier, I began to have other experiences that were far more beneficial to me than anything that was coming out of my mouth. And so, but that's how it started.
Okay. And Mary, you have any questions so far?
I think this is an important part for many of our esteemed audience who are listening to you, who've been on this journey for over 20 years. And if you have any advice for people who have this gift, but are at those stages of doubt, maybe fear, maybe uncertainty, what would be your advice to them? How to, as you said, get out of the way and help the process and benefit from it?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a gift. I think it's an ability that everyone has, and everyone is capable of developing that ability. I'm no more special than you or anybody else on this earth. The way you get there, I believe, is to meditate. When people ask my advice of what would I recommend that you do, meditate every day, at least for a few moments every day. And people who think that meditation is difficult, you create difficulty, because it is not difficult. Anyone who can concentrate for a few moments at a time can meditate. And regardless of whether you believe that you're generating or getting anything out of the meditation, I can guarantee you that there will be physical benefits that everyone receives, even if you're not aware of what you're experiencing doing the meditation. So meditate. Wonderful. I can't give you better advice.
Okay, so was there a particular point in time during your journey as a channeler that you finally decided to, inverted commas, cooperate with the message as opposed to resisting it?
Well, I was really doubtful when we started. We started doing things like trying to record, and it was very difficult. We were using the little cassette recorders.
Yes, I remember our recording issues. While Josiah doesn't want to hear, wants you to hear.
They would block out parts that they didn't want us to hear, but at first we couldn't record anything. We just had it wasn't that there wasn't a recording on the cassette, it was just a hum type of a noise. And so they asked Josiah about that problem, and Josiah said to remove the machine from the room and to just run a speaker into the room, and that would help to solve the problem. And so we tried that and it worked, even though at that you could only use one side of those little cassette tapes. And if anybody had any,
that also happened with us, because I tried to record Josiah that first time, if you remember.
Even now
they will, so well.
Yes, even now they will sometimes stop the recording, and we don't have a control over that. But when we were recording, there were several things that happened that would change almost anyone's mind. These little cassette recorders record 45 minutes on them, and then they're done. We had times when there was over an hour recorded on a 45-minute cassette tape. And when you listen to it, it sounded like chipmunks talking. And we got a dictaphone to slow it down enough so that we could hear the message. And then even there was, at times, there were blank tapes on some of those, or blank spots on some of those tapes. Mm-hmm. When they asked Josiah what that problem was, Josiah said that was a message that was intended for the individual asking the question and was not meant to be presented to the public. And so they blocked it out.
Yes.
And then there were other times when, while I'm reluctant to say what I experienced, and I can explain that as well, but what I experience when I'm channeling is not the channeling message. I don't hear that at all. I haven't listened to those messages for 10 or 15 years. That's not saying I don't get the message, because when someone talks about some of the stuff, it resonates that, yeah, I understand that. But I have other experiences when I'm channeling. And on one of the cassette tapes, there were two voices, one over top of the other. And one was the voice that was coming out of my mouth, and the other was the voice that I was experiencing in my mind. And they were recorded one over top of the other on the cassette tape. Mm-hmm. That kind of gets you to thinking that maybe this is something that's a little bit beyond our control. So that's when I began to think that, yeah, maybe this was probably, not just my own thoughts or my own mind, because that's always a doubt that you have that you're making this stuff up. The other thing that happened was I'm not a spiritual person. I don't read many spiritual books. I don't listen to other channels, but I continuously have people say to me that sounds like the message that so-and-so is giving. And I've never heard those messages. I don't read them. I'm not interested in them. But when someone says that it's similar, to me, that's a validation that the message is coming from the same place, just to different sources. And it gives validity to the message. It doesn't make it seem like someone's copying someone else, for example. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, it does, actually. Amira, I guess the next question is yours.
So I'm just sort of thinking of, you mentioned that Josiah explained the reason for some of the tapes being blanked, and that was out of respect for the sovereignty, privacy, and dignity of the person that message was specifically meant for. So this would be an indication that Josiah is one of a group of very, very benevolent beings, that respect for personal dignity, privacy, respecting another being, not putting them out under the spotlight without their consent, or in situations where it's not beneficial for them. But when was it that you came to a complete agreement within all aspects of yourself that indeed you're in contact with a race, with an individual from a race that are truly benevolent?
We are all truly benevolent. Josiah is no different than we are. We just choose not to have that understanding. We choose not to have that understanding. That's my belief. So Josiah is not any more advanced than what we are. We just choose to hide from that same type of knowledge, that same advancement, if that's what you want to call it. I'm not a person who believes that someone somehow becomes more enlightened than another person. I don't like that term, enlightened. seems to indicate that somebody somehow has learned something that's not available to somebody else.
Hierarchy. The hierarchy is bullshit.
Yeah,
We just
I'm
said
done.
that on our last show,
Yes.
which means
Yeah.
that either I'm listening to Bob too much. Oh my God. Right? Look, we just said that on our last show. Nobody's more spiritual than the other. It's just a matter of the choice that they make, right?
Yeah.
And the choices are the same. Bob, I want to concentrate on the messages, right? Because you and I usually have discussions about that, right? So let's talk about the discussion. You create your own reality. Completely agreed. You want to expand more on what that means to you as Bob and what you think that channel message is trying to say.
Well, as I've said to you before, David, this reality that we experience here is an illusion.
Yeah.
And since I've begun channeling and since I've been to other levels of my consciousness, I have really come to believe that this is the biggest illusion of them all. And that while we may have difficulty controlling that in our conscious state, that's a choice we made to have the difficulty. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean that it's any less of an illusion. And so consequently, you have that choice of what you want to experience in this illusion. And you have the choice of finding out why you're in this illusion in the first place. That's all available to you. People have asked me, a psychologist who was a professor in the University of Saskatchewan once asked me one time what I got from these channelings. I used to channel at his classes for him. And when he asked me what was the biggest benefit that I got from these channelings, I told him, number one, I know who I am. And number two, I know why I'm here. I know why I chose this lifetime. And that's been the biggest gain that I've got from the channelings. I have no doubt who I am. I don't question it anymore.
Excellent. Amir, over to you.
Oh my God, I mean, isn't that beautiful? knowing who you are and why you're here, that's something many people never achieve. And once you have that knowledge within every aspect of your psyche, things are then smooth sailing. No matter what happens, you know what's what, you know what's up, so to speak. That's amazing. So Bob, you mentioned the choice. And I very wholeheartedly agree with this. We're here by choice and we want to gain experiences. And so the fact that the matrix around us, this physical reality, is an illusion. I'm going to ask a really dumb question. How do we choose to remove the illusion or layers of the illusion?
Alter your consciousness. Meditation. Again, it's the simplest advice that I can give. Alter your consciousness while maintaining aware of what you're experiencing. And that can be quite, people think that that's hard. And of course, when you think it's hard, it becomes hard. Yeah. But it is possible to be in a very altered state of consciousness and yet be acutely aware of what it is that you're experiencing. And not only to be aware of what you're experiencing, but to be able to have a control over what it is that you're experiencing. And when you can control that and you understand that you're controlling it and you're aware of that, even though you're in a very deep altered state of consciousness, like being in a dream state, and yet you're still in control, then you begin to understand that this is kind of all a joke. It's an illusion.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? And I want to shout out to all the meditators that are out there. Bob was like first generation before us, right? Before a lot of us. And he's done a lot of meditation groups and so on. So channeling may be a small aspect of what he's done. So I'm going to ask you, Bobby, in terms of being a meditator, what are your experiences? Because I noticed that when I was at that channeling, both of them, actually multiple channelings with Bob, you go into meditation first. Okay, it takes a while to get into that meditative state, the trance state, and so on. But once you're in that state, everyone around you is affected with the entrance of Josiah. I know, I certainly am. And the message that is channeled is always relevant to the people that are around you. So is that happenstance, or is that just the way the channeling works?
I think that the channeling is a collection of the energy that the people that are not only present, because I've channeled on the Zoom channelings, but all the people who are involved, I think, are the source of the energy for the channeling. And so consequently, the message frequently applies to the people that are there. Many times when the channeling is done, there will be people who will say, and I think, David, you've been one of these who have said that channeling was meant specifically for me. And that's frequent. That doesn't just happen once in a while. That's common, that somebody, more than one person, more than one person will say, that was meant for me. I really had to hear that. And so I believe that the channeling is simply you're hearing what you want to hear. It's not a message that's given to you and to in any way try to change your direction, but rather to enhance the questions or the answers to the questions that you're seeking. So I think it's the people that are involved that make the channeling. And it's actually me.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because, you know, my analytical mind won't rest. So I'm trying to figure out, how does this happen all the time? It's words. It's words. Like, honestly, guys, I have been to the channeling, so I can pretty much tell you it's words. But the words, the configuration of words and the way that they're arranged seems to fit everybody in the room's issue at the same time. So, you know, I can't help but being analytical. I'm like, how is this happening? So yes, you do say that you hear what you want to hear, but at different sections of Joshua's channeling, at the last one that I went to, I believe I was at Avonlea, correct? The last one that I went to, when I got driven up 85% gradient hill, right, in a truck. Let's talk about that on this broadcast, right? So the last channel that I went to, there were a few people in the room, and I know these people personally, right, for the most part, okay? Not all of them, but some of them. And I know what goes on in their lives. So as he was channeling, my mind is splitting itself into different people, right? And try to view it from their perspective, and it hits every one of them. So that's amazing to me. That's the first thing. And I know it's just words. And, you know, the English professor in me comes out and tries to try to understand and turn the words around. And Bob, I know you have something to say. So you could just say it, you know, Bob. You know, I can't help it. I analyze. Okay. So it's very interesting to me that actually happens. And what's beautiful about this entire process, when I met Bob, I'm like, oh, this is somebody that is different and interesting, because he's not saying what the majority of spiritual people are saying. Okay? Because any spiritual person, and we've done this on the broadcast, that emphasizes the concept of hierarchy. A channel just told you there is no hierarchy.
Yeah.
There is no hierarchy. Josiah is just like us. Depending on where the entity lives, does it really matter in the end? It's not about the messenger, it's about the message. And if you heard the message, and the message told you that you create your own reality, then you should probably listen, especially since we all know endemically that we do. Amir, I guess I'm going to pass this ball over to you.
So David, you focused on one aspect of what is happening during these events, that the words mean very different things that are appropriate to different audience.
Yes.
But then another thing that I have noticed is another layer upon this layer, where usually, Bob, when you start your channeling, Josiah says that if you wish to have a telepathic interaction, you can absolutely initiate this.
Correct.
And I have taken up Josiah on this invitation, and guess what? Boom! It just opens another channel. So while the one aspect of my mind is hearing the words and the channeled message with all its content, there's an entirely different conversation going on, where it's like I'm watching a movie going on in the background, but Josiah's sitting next to me and we're having our little discussion too. And it's so fascinating that as soon as I ask the question, boom, the answer comes right in, uninterrupted. And many of our esteemed audience have experienced this. They've written back to us because I specifically asked them to please take up Josiah on his offer.
Correct.
And they say, "Poof! My mind is blown. What the hell? What the hell just happened?"
And
so
there's some people that won't try that, right? But that is absolutely correct.
Incredible.
When it comes to channeling and so on, I think people think that there's a particular skill set that you need. I think you need to meditate. I think your mind has to be attuned to a certain frequency, right? But I know Bob personally, and so I can tell you he's right. He's not the most spiritual person you want to run into. All right, this man was a taxidermist. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. For those of you out there who are the judgy spiritualists, meet Bob the taxidermist. Okay. All right, so he was a taxidermist as well, and Bob has taught archery and a number of other things which are extremely interesting. And Bob, you were into politics as well, weren't you, at one point? What about that?
Just something I couldn't avoid being involved in small communities. They need somebody that'll take
organize
over
them. Yeah, and so this is a man who's living in life and being active.
Yes.
And he just meditated and so on. Because a lot of people, and I want to ask you this, Bob, a lot of people think that spirituality and meditation and all those things are extremely difficult concepts to grasp. And I want your take on this.
No, I don't think meditation is hard to grasp at all. I started meditating for personal reasons. It had nothing to do with spirituality. I was running a shop in Briarcrest. Briarcrest is 150 people, located a long way from anywhere. And I was running a shop doing taxidermy work and selling archery equipment in a town of 150 people. And I meditated every morning for about half an hour. And my meditation was a visualization of people coming to my shop and of my phone ringing. And so I ran that business for 15 years and I never advertised. I was a year behind in my workload, and I have clients in pretty much every state and province in North America. And I attribute that to my visualizations that I did during my meditations when I was meditating every morning, visualizing the work coming in. So mine was not spiritual at all. Mine was an attempt to keep my business going.
You see how that ended up for you? Did you see how that ended for you? Right? I'm going to let you jump in there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So the benefits of meditation aren't just limited to physical well-being, to spiritual development. They very well have application in every aspect of life. So I suppose you esteemed gentlemen will agree with this, that it is so important to meditate because it brings in more of the truth that is you.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with that aspect, because my experience with meditation has been that it's an amplifier. That's for sure. Okay. Now, I think that meditation amplifies what you have on board already. Okay. I think it amplifies what you have on board. For different people, it has done different things. So when people have tried to scientifically measure the effects of meditation, yeah, you can measure the effects on the body in terms of what it does, but you can never see the individual insight and the perspectives that it shifts. And it's always very subtle. So And this is why I think journaling is important, because if you write down what your thoughts were before you started meditating and after you started meditating, I'm going to ask Bob a question. Bob, that picture I saw of you in the rodeo,
Yes.
and you remember that picture I saw of you wrangling horses, wrangling cattle, and stuff like that. Are your thoughts now, right now, as you are right now at present, the same as that cowboy, for want of a better word, back then?
No, I don't think so. I'm more in tune to understand that my thoughts and my feelings influence my choices and decisions, and my beliefs and attitudes have a huge effect on my reality. And I think that I'm more willing to accept responsibility for my reality now than I was then. I don't think there's much doubt about that. So
was it subtle? Was
at
it
the
subtle,
time,
or did you just wake up one day and it was there?
I think I've told you about my experiences with hypnotism when I was younger. And while it was some years later before I realized how much of an impact that could have on me, I still think it was probably one of the most, despite the channeling, it was one of the most, how would I say it? One of the
You
most.
could feel free to share, this is not limited by time.
It was one of the biggest influences on my life, I think. And I didn't realize it at the time, but as I got older and I began to realize what took place, then I began to realize how much power your conscious mind has over your reality.
Yes.
You're all familiar with hypnotism. Hypnotism is simply the power of suggestion, and you're willing to take that suggestion and bring it into your reality to experience it. And the one thing that really triggered me was, there were several things, but there was one that the hypnotist, who I had been to several times, would talk to me without really hypnotizing me, but make a suggestion, and I would try consciously to not be subjected to that suggestion, but nonetheless I failed most of the time. And he told me one time that he knew of a man, every time somebody snapped their fingers, the man would fall down. And I was not going to fall down. I knew exactly what he was doing. Well, anyway, when he snapped his fingers, I fell down. And this was repeated several times. And at one time, I fell on something on the floor. There was a rock or a nail or something on the floor, and it pierced my knee. It actually tore my jeans and punched a hole in my leg. And I was bleeding. And it was painful. And the hypnotist noticed that it was bleeding. This was Ravine, by the way. I'm not sure if you people are familiar with Ravine. But he came over to me right away, shut the mic off, and he asked, "Did we do this just now?" And I said, "Yes, I fell on something on the floor here." "Oh," he said, "it doesn't hurt, does it?" And instantly it quit hurting. And then he said to me, "I don't think it's bleeding anymore either." And it quit bleeding. And I was amazed. That he could do that. But like 10 or 15 years later, I realized he didn't do a damn thing. All he did was made the suggestion, and I'm the one that did it.
Correct.
And so I have learned to apply that out. It's mental. Like at one time, I walked on a broken leg for 10 days because I kept telling myself it didn't hurt. So pain is there to tell you got a problem, and if you got that pain, you should go have it looked at. So I'm not suggesting that people do that, because it's really not healthy. But at the same time, many people have witnessed me experience what would be extremely painful, and it is extremely painful, but I can control it in a matter of seconds. And it's not like I'm tough. It's not like I'm this really tough guy and I can walk around experiencing the pain, but rather I literally stop the experience. So that's something that I have learned from the hypnotist, and as well that I have learned that we can control certain aspects of our life. Absolutely, without question. We are in control of many things that happen in our life.
Okay, Amir,
so essentially, what I picked up from all this is that meditation makes you a better cowboy.
I think that meditation, if there's any one thing that you want to do to benefit your personal life, meditation is it. It'll benefit you in so many ways that you're not aware of, such as your blood pressure, for example, your mental well-being, your stress level, your anxiety levels can all be helped with meditation. And those are side effects that come whether you're looking for them or not. They're just benefits that people experience from meditation. So without worrying about all of the other stuff that you can get from meditation, such as experiencing other realities, experiencing other consciousnesses, experiencing other past lives or alternative lives, that's all available through altered consciousness. But the benefits that you reap physically are available to everyone, whether you think you're getting it or not. It's the side benefit. It's something that just happens with meditation. So again, my advice, meditate.
You know, gentlemen, this is so beautiful that what is just discussed is in perfect harmony with every single school of thought, spirituality, and religion, that each in their own way are pointing to the same exact thing, that you need to dive within if you want the doors of the cosmos to open.
Yep, they can.
And that is the benefits of the meditation. Yes. So, esteemed audience, wonderful ladies and gentlemen listening to this, please take it to heart that meditation is the way. It benefits you in every single way. Maybe you won't immediately see the manifestation of that beneficial effect, but it's there nonetheless.
I want to take a little bit of segue here. Now, I alluded a little earlier on to the fact that Bob is normal. Now, Bob had a choice when he became a channel for Josiah. You could have put on a turban and some flowing white robes, and you could have made millions of dollars. And then you wouldn't have to worry about the shop. Look at the difference, what we're talking about, because we try to bring real people on here that are experiencing real things. And so, Bob, you could have put on a turban, right? And some flowing white robes. And we could have
you'd
called
look
you
damn
Guru.
good. Yeah, you'd look amazing too.
We could have called you Guru Bob Love or something like that, but you chose to be normal. And when I say normal, that's a wonderful thing. I visited Bob on a farm. Bob took me around the farm, okay, showed me aspects and different plants and so on at my first Saskatoon berry. And then you tricked me into thinking that it might have worms, which was not funny, just so that we know. Like, I was ready to put both of my fingers in my throat. Right, so, right, I had my first Saskatoon berry. We drove up very dangerous cliff faces. And I pretty much swallowed half of my heart into my stomach. So he is a normal person. He's not Guru Bob Love. So, Bob, I suppose my simple question would be, Bob, why didn't you put on a turban and become Guru Bob Love?
Well, I have everything I need.
Ah.
Why would I?
Isn't oh my god, boof.
Like, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as I said from the beginning, I have no agenda. I really don't care whether people listen or believe or don't believe. That's not why I do this. I do this for my own personal benefit as much as anything. I've had experiences that I could never have without Josiah. So that's my reward. I don't know what else to tell you. I can tell you when you talked about people who coming or who meditate or who take advantage of the meditation that's available when they channel. Mm-hmm. I've had people coming from the time I began to channel. One of them is a very good friend of mine, Rick Tilson, who David knows. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I were to phone Rick and say, Rick, we're going to be channeling this evening at 6 o'clock. Can you be here? I can almost guarantee you that Rick would be here. And he does not come to listen to the channel. He comes because of the ability to meditate in that energy. And he is actually in a meditative state before I am. He's taking advantage of that energy. Now, to give some justification to that, Rick Tilson has traveled the world searching for energy to meditate in. He's been to India a couple of times. He's been to the Monroe Institute in West Virginia 20 sometimes. He's been all over the world searching for that energy. And if you ask him about why he comes to Josiah, he will tell you that it is one of his purest and most enticing energies that he's found anywhere in the world.
Honestly, I can concur with that, Bob, because at Avonlea, at the last channeling, right, I took advantage of the energy myself. And it is extremely, you're not aware at the time because you're in trance at the time. But the energy actually is very, very healing. And I have been in TM since I was 13 years old. Okay, so I have a reference point. Rick has been to the Monroe Institutes and he's used Hemisync and everything else. And it is a very different kind of energy, and it's very pure and it's very clean. And so when it was that we did that channeling at Avonlea, I was so surprised that even the audience, the Zoom audience, and so on, became more enabled as a result of it. And I mean, like psychically and connected in a connected sense. So, and I noticed these little things because, I analyze, which we have talked about already. I noticed these things because I analyzed, and the audience became more connected as a result of it. So honestly, I think in terms of the usefulness of channels or people who channel, they're useful just for that reason, because being able to make that bridge, 99% of the world's population are not going to take up meditation. There's a lot of people who will not take it up because they see it as an extra discipline, or some people just don't have the discipline, even though it's really not, and they see it as difficult. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's just Hollywood portraying meditation as some difficult science. Some guy kneeling down at the top of a mountain on a rock, right? And having the trees and the weeds grow around him and stuff like that. Meditation does not have to be like that, okay? I'm sure a lot of you waste more time on your cell phones right now. If you put a cell phone down for 10 minutes and do a short meditation, the benefits to your health are incomparable. So I want to say that, Amir, over to you.
So I completely agree. So I wasn't present during the recording, but the exact energy, that very, very unique, healing, beautiful, divine energy is transferred through the recordings. Now, not just the video recordings, but the audio recordings too. So it's very much like a key that will open the gateway to a certain realm of consciousness. So as Bob goes into that zone of connection, the door is open, and the welcome mat is extended to whoever wishes to join, wishes to step through that gateway. Yes. As Josiah says, he extends the invitation that if you wish, you're welcome. And that is a very genuine invitation.
Absolutely. At the first recording that we did, Bob, you'll remember, we had a mother there. We had a lady who has been practicing witchcraft her entire life. We call her mother around here. And we had a lady who's a psychic healer. They gave me feedback because I choose the scientific method, so I get the feedback, right? We compare notes. And they both were in harmony with what they were feeling and seeing and so on. And these people have been doing esoterics their whole life. I've been meditating my entire life as well. And so I think that when it comes to channeling, I think this is something that we probably need a lot more of. So there is a need for it, absolutely. A lot of people cannot access that kind of energy on their own, okay? not that they can't. Let me rephrase that before Bob jumps in here, because I feel it. Right? Not that they can't. They won't make the choice to access that energy on their own because they think that it's a lot of work. But they have a lot of some people think that they can't because of trauma, drama, whatever, it doesn't matter. And at the end of it all, I'm going to quote Bob here. I can't believe I'm going to quote Bob here. All of it is part of their creation because they create the trauma and the drama and so on, and they are in control. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, that's pretty accurate. They can't do it because they choose to believe they can't do it.
Yes,
It's really that simple. This is not a complicated thing to figure out. You either choose to believe or you don't believe. It's that simple. And the irony of it is that it doesn't matter what you believe, you can experience that.
Yes.
And that consciousness that you are gives it to you. They don't judge whether this is going to be good or bad for you. That's your choice. But
correct.
It's still, and again, the irony of it is that it doesn't matter whether you believe you created. That part you can't do away from. You can hide from it, and some people do a better job at hiding from the understanding that they created, and they blame it on their neighbors or they blame it on someone else. But eventually, they create it all, and you cannot escape that. Even if you choose to believe you don't create it, you'll have all types of experience that validate that belief. But you need to understand it was your choice to believe that in the first place.
Excellent.
Nobody forced you to believe that you couldn't do it. You chose to believe that you're not in control. You choose to believe that you can't do something. It's your choice. And it's not right or wrong. I'm not judging you or saying you have to choose one way or the other. That's your choice. I really don't care. Unless you're causing harm to someone else, then I get a little bit upset. But otherwise, I don't care.
Well, guys, we've come to the end of our interview. I'm going to give Amir the last word, and then I'm going to give Bob the last word. Bob,
Already?
yes, Amir, go ahead.
Come on, how could this pass so quickly? I mean, already, wow. So what I'm understanding from this last part of the conversation, the greatest service that we can do to our fellow human beings is correct the way they think and correct those beliefs that are harmful and limiting. And that is the greatest path to liberation towards what is ultimately the true self that we are, infinite creator beings. And I don't know if you would agree with this or not, Bob.
Accept the responsibility for what you experience. And understand that when you hold a conscious thought about someone else or you choose not to hold a conscious thought about another event in the world, then you choose by default to support that particular event by not having an opinion one way or the other. In other words, if there's harm coming to someone and somewhere else in the world, and you don't want to pay attention to the news because you don't want to be involved, then you are at default for supporting that in the first place. And so it's important to understand that we're all connected. You can't escape that. You can hide from it, and you can say, I don't want to be involved in that, but it doesn't matter. You're involved when you choose to come into this particular level of existence. And you can't escape that. So when you say to me, I'm not interested in what's happening in Europe, for example, that's fine. But then understand that by default, you have expressed an opinion and you're supporting that, or at least allowing it to continue to happen without making a conscious effort to bring peace to our world.
Through a sort of tacit consent, yes, of understanding.
So you don't have a choice of whether or not you're going to be involved in this world. You do have a choice of how you're going in this world. The difference there. You have a choice in the reality that you create.
Excellent. Well, Bob, if you have anything else to say to your audience, because I know Bob doesn't promote himself, so I will, because Just told me to. Right, so we have Bob's landing page in the description, either above or below. I'm not quite sure. As above, so below. Right, we have Bob's landing page in the description. You can get an idea of what he's about via the recordings. We have embedded a channeling that he did for Regina Real out here on the landing page as well. And Bob has written a book. Josiah is the name of the book, oddly enough. Right, the book is Josiah. Thank you for giving the entity that you're channeling its props and its proper respect. So there is that. Apart from that, if Bob will have me, we'll probably have more channelings for you guys, because I see that you guys really resonate with what he is saying, which is what we have been saying on this network. We are all equally enabled. We are all equally enabled, okay? So, yeah, this has been a pleasure, actually. This has been a long time coming, Bob. This has been a long time coming. And so, Bob, I want to thank you for being on this broadcast. Really, I do. Amir, I'm going to let you speak to Bob. And
Well,
I don't know what
Bob,
to say. This is good.
thank you so much. It's been a great honor speaking with you. Thank you for what you do. Although you don't give yourself enough credit, I know people really love the message that you're bringing into the world. Power to you. Thank you so much. And I wish you your very highest good. You're a beautiful, beautiful human being. Thank you for everything.
Amir, there are a lot of people who may not agree with that last statement.
me. I want kidding, guys. After that drive up that hill, I was like, I'm still having like memories about that. But then I probably created that reality for myself. So, guys, I just wanted to say that UCM VIP will be back next week. I'm not quite sure when Bob will be channeling again, but if he is and he will consent, I will be at that channeling in the interim. So, apart from that, Bob, I have a turban that will fit you. So, guys, I will see you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.